The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Hobbies. Oh, wait. Welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters. This Tuesday, the 25th. I'm the 25th of the year. Episode 184. The video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for our awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues, with some customized changes for our show. I am joined by my amazing joint host, Tara Simpson, along with the one and only Bufo Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. Hello, Tara.
Hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to take a minute to introduce Bufo. He's our Sonoran desert toad, or Colorado mud toad. Did you know he emits DMT from his skin? And while that sounds like fun, park rangers would like to remind everyone, please don't lick that toad.
Don't lick toad. Don't. Your mouth is dirty.
Mm-hmm. The toad could be dirty. You don't know how much DMT is going to spray in your mouth. I mean, that might be a trip you didn't sign up for. And not to mention, like it stresses them out and, we can harm them in the process. So, sustainable harvesting of DMT is where it's at, folks.
Right. And you can be licking pee instead of DMT. So our first article comes out of accessnewswire.com. And Innermost launches to evolve psychedelic therapy, advancing treatment access and knowledge in the field. And let's see who it's written by. Looks like Innermost, PBC, Access Newswire, United FDA authorized trials, ketamine and Spravato therapy, therapist training and community education under one roof. Innermost brings a vital new resource contributing to the field globally. New York City's new psychedelic assisted therapy center. Oh, that's already the article. I'll let you read that.
Okay. So New York City's new psychedelic assisted therapy center, dedicated to accessible care, practitioner training, FDA authorized clinical trials, and community building, is officially open. A public benefit corporation, Innermost, provides accessible ketamine and Spravato therapy in its FDA trial site that trains psychedelic assisted therapists and builds community among clinicians in this paradigm shifting field. With a mental health need at an all-time high, and the uncertainty across political and research, its launch introduces a hub for evidence-based psychedelic care supporting New Yorkers while advancing access and progress globally. New Hope emerges as mainstream, embraces new evidence-based approaches that expand what's possible in mental health care. Leading conversations about psychedelic therapies, past, present, and future, is Casey Palios, MD, co founder and chief medical officer, board certified psychiatrist and researcher with 15 plus years in psychedelic assisted therapy. As figures like Rick Doblin pass the baton, they sing praise about his body of work and vision. Principal investigator, MAPS MDMA therapy for PTSD studies. Therapist, NYU psilocybin cancer anxiety study, co-founder, Nautilus Sanctuary, founding board member, International Alliance of MDMA Practitioners, presenter, Understanding Ketamine Workshop, Psychotherapy Networker Conference, Washington, D.C., co-author of Inner Directed Therapy, MDMA Assisted Psychotherapy, new released commentary on the MDMA debate in the American Journal of Psychiatry, why Innermost is different, research, FDA authorized clinical trial site, including ongoing MDMA research and more to be announced. Treatment integration of psychotherapy with ketamine, Spravato, and future integrative mental health modalities. Training, practicum training, mentorship, and clinical supervision, education and community, public programs, podcasts, panels, and partnerships. Accessibility, public benefit corporation whose mission is to eliminate social economic barriers to accessing psychedelic therapies. And visuals, first look at Innermost space and design, interviews with Dr. Palios and the team, photos and opportunities. Now open to the public by appointment at Innermost.one. Media are invited to schedule private tours of Innermost. That's really cool. Sorry, I didn't realize that was so short. I took the whole thing.
Oh, that's okay. I was reading about it, and I already Buffos and I were smoking a joint, and we were talking about the articles this morning.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. I like that they are they have a, like, you know, if you can't afford this fund, that's kind of cool that they're trying to remove the financial barriers for people to be able to access these things, because that's something that we've discussed many times on this show about, like, great that the therapy's there, but who's got $3,000 just kicking around for what if, right? Not many people have those excess funds, especially those who are currently struggling, maybe because they've had a mental breakdown, they can't even work. Well, how are they supposed to pay for that kind of therapy that could actually really fix them? So that's really cool. I like that they're doing that work.
And the media, I like the media invite. And the reason why I like that is usually, and it depends on their definition of media, but I myself, as a podcaster, have a hard time getting into cannabis-related places, big corporations, clinical testing, or just all that stuff so far, you know?
Right, because you're independent media. You're not mainstream narrative media, right? So there's... They don't see us the same way, sadly, even though we're out here doing factual work.
Right. So another article that Buffos was talking about this morning when we were smoking a joint was this next article. And he said this popped up in, like, all over. He's like, there was like 7 articles on this. And citizentribune.com is the one he chose. And popularity of psilocybin psychedelics hasn't increased ER visits. And then this was updated on the 21st. This is a great read. And I'm going to do a key takeaway. So the increased use of psychedelics hasn't caused a rise in emergency room visits and hospitalizations. Psychedelics account for fewer than 2% of hospital visits related to substance use. And after a small increase early in the COVID pandemic, hospital admissions declined through 2023. And this was written on Friday from Healthy Day News.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting article because, I mean, as you know, I mean, people have always said, oh, you know, if you take mushrooms, you could end up, you know, in the hospital going crazy and stuff like that. But it doesn't seem to be the case. You know, maybe a little spike during COVID, but I wonder if that was their own anxiety. And if you're using mushrooms in high doses and you already have anxiety, it might be setting related or things on your brain. That era was very stressful for a lot of people. So I wonder if, you know, maybe they could dive deeper into a study specifically on that point in time. Would be interesting to see why people were there. But anyways, we'll continue on. Increased use of hallucinogenics like psilocybin hasn't created an increase in ER visits or hospitalizations for bad trips. Researchers recently reported in JAMA Network Open. In fact, after a small rise in early 2020, admissions declined through 2023, with no correlation to decriminalization policies. Senior researcher Kevin Yu, an assistant professor of psychiatry at Washington University's School of Medicine in St. Louis, Missouri, said in a news release, hallucinogen use is rising in the United States. Researchers said in background notes, Oregon and Colorado have decriminalized the use of psilocybin, along with several cities in Massachusetts, California, and Michigan. However, it's not clear how that increase has affected the health of users, researchers said. For the study, researchers tracked ER visits and hospital admissions for substance use involving people 16 to 64 between 2016 and 2023. Among more than 1.3 million treated for substance use, fewer than 2% had taken hallucinogens, researchers found. The monthly share of hallucinogen-related admissions ranged from 0.6% in January 2016 to a high of nearly 1.2% in January of 2021. ER visits and hospitalizations currently have stabilized into a pattern that's slightly above pre-pandemic levels, results show. Hallucinogens continue to account for a small fraction of substance-related hospital admissions, outweighed by alcohol and opioid-related encounters, the research team concluded in their report. These findings add important context to other studies showing rises in hallucinogenic use. Researcher Richard Gruszka, a professor of family and community medicine and health outcomes research at St. Louis University of Medicine, said in a news release, those increases don't seem to be contributing to rising ER visits. If anything, alcohol and other drugs seem to be driving adverse consequences of psychedelic use, Cruz said. Interesting.
It is, man. So more information. The Cleveland Clinic has more on hallucinogens. Sources, St. Louis University, news release, November 18th. So that's, I really enjoy that. And I couldn't help but think, you know, like cannabis right now they're saying, but like if you get a healthcare worker in there, they could tell you that they are just narrowing and just picking out that it may not be the same. You know, it's like so with the mushrooms, I like this because so many states are looking at it right now, especially now that Texas swung out and then Ohio and, you know, like all these states that are like doing other
interesting
stuff.
Because, I mean, they keep trying to push this narrative that mushrooms are dangerous. They'll make you go crazy. There's potential for abuse. That's why they're in the category that they're in, right? Like in most states. But yet they're not seeing a rise in any of the problems that you're seeing with these opioids and other issues like alcohol use, right? So if they're so dangerous and they're on the rise, why are we not seeing more people in hospital, more people overdosing or going insane or whatever it is they said would happen to us? You know, our brains are like eggs, right? You know?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's really interesting that they're seeing an increase in use, but they're not seeing an increase in adverse events. And maybe the few who have gone to hospital took a little too much and didn't realize that, you know, if they just go someplace quiet and just decompress, they'll be okay. They thought that maybe the hospital could help them. And again, they're just going to stick you in a room and let you ride it out, folks. So, you know, setting and have a responsible trip sitter with you for those just in case moments, right? That would be my advice.
So they said psychedelics too. They didn't just say mushrooms. They said psychedelics as a whole.
Hallucinogens. Right? So that could be acid, that could be mushrooms, that could be a number of products, right?
Yep. So all right, I had to readjust my hand. Something tore and went. That's how you know not to do it no more. So medicalexpress.com is our third article. And this one, as experts are talking about stuff, they argue psychedelics too unruly for traditional product development. And that's a great, like a great, you know, thing to argue about. City St. George's, University of London. So this is what University of London, is that in London?
That would be like London, England. Yeah. So okay, I would think this is UK. Like,
well, you know, and I want to hear this argument.
Maybe not, though. I don't know. City St. George's, University, London. I couldn't tell you for certain. It could be US, but I would think more UK. Usually when you hear University London, it's like a UK thing, right?
Yep. I wonder if Kim in the background sitting there like... Okay, yeah, you want to start out the article.
Yeah. So investor appetite in corporate psychedelia is returning, but the sector faces fundamental barriers to profitability, according to new research. The paper by Dr. Sandy Bryan Hager, reader in International Political Economy at City St. George, University of London, is published in Finance and Society, and argues there is a mismatch between psychedelics and the economics of drug development. Consequently, pharmaceutical startups might change the face of psychedelics. Some are looking to develop extremely intense short-term effect drugs. Others are looking to engineer the trip out of the experience entirely. From boom to bust, the paper... Kim just sent me a message. She said it's UK. She's on it. Thank you, Kim. From boom to bust, the paper analyzes the financial results of the top 5 for-profit psychedelic pharmaceutical companies between the industry's inception in 2016 and 2021, and draws on economic theory around capital and financial cycles. Hype around the revolutionary benefits of psychedelics in treating mental health inspired an economic boom. Hundreds of startups launched and investor money poured in. A series of setbacks rattled investors, weak trial beginnings, rising interest rates, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration rejecting MDMA treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, and the industry went into free fall. Now in 2025, political winds are shifting, trials are delivering stronger results, and Big Pharma, long weary of psychedelics, is finally showing interest, hinting at the promise of another shroom boom. Dr. Hager's paper suggests investors should remain cautious as issues around patenting, and drug trials may yet choke drug development. Of course it will.
Right, and economic and medical constraints choke development as well. So the research identifies two major obstacles to profitability. Fuck the medical part. Let's just worry about the profit. Oh, sorry. And rant. Weak intellectual property protection and unpredictable nature of the psychedelic experience, making conducting standardized medical trials challenging. Developing a new drug can cost $1 to $2 billion. Sorry. And investors will only put that money if they believe companies can recoup it later through patents. IP is therefore a major concern. Some psychedelics, like magic mushrooms, psilocybin, are naturally occurring unpatentable. Others, such as ayahuasca, have long histories of indigenous use, leaving little scope for patent law. Even synthetic drugs like LSD have patents have expired decades ago. Because drugs like psilocybin work best alongside ours, long-guided therapy, their effects are hard to standardize and test in lab setting, making commercial scaling difficult. This unruliness casts doubt over the future of corporate psychedelia. A changing face of psychedelics, pharmaceutical companies may yet find ways around the obstacles, whether yet short-acting compounds or entirely new drug classes. Such are developing short-duration psychedelics such as 5-MeO-DMT, which cause extreme intense trips, lasting only minutes. And I love it. Oh, my bad. Other companies are looking to engineer the trip out of experience altogether, creating a new class of drugs called neuroplastogens. Wow.
Yeah, these aim to trigger the same brain changes in a classic psychedelic without the hallucinations. Dr. Hager said when startups first began launching, corporate psychedelia looked set to fulfill its vision, delivering big returns for investors and offering long-awaited solutions to the global mental health crisis. Then weak trial results and rising interest rates sent the sector into a free fall. The unruliness of psychedelics gives us a reason to be cautious about long-term future or for-profit psychedelic medicine. In bending psychedelics to fit the pharmaceutical model, they risk becoming indistinguishable from the very drugs they were meant to replace. For all the hype of the mental health revolution, psychedelics may deliver nothing more radical than business as usual.
Wow.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I keep saying I don't think there's a way to take these drugs and make them therapeutic standard across the globe, right? Like we're playing with natural plant therapy. So to try and patent something without altering its natural state, which then, of course, in my mind, now it's not really fully psychedelic mushrooms because you've done something to it, and it didn't grow in its natural habitat state. Once you start pissing around with things and you change it, it's no longer the same thing. And that's what pharmaceuticals are. They took plants and other things in the environment and made them into medicines by altering their states.
Call it what you're doing with it. You're taking it and changing it into a form that you can profit it for investors, taking the patient's right to natural medicines away.
Exactly, because it's no longer natural medicine when you start chemically altering it or genetically altering it. It's no longer the same plant. That's how so many different drugs have gotten through international borders over the years. It starts as one drug, and then once it becomes banned and you can't get it across, then they alter it just slightly by a molecule. So it no longer tests the same as the other thing, and they call it something else. And then guess what? It's no longer illegal. And that's what they were doing for many, 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 many years to get things, across the border illegally, because it wasn't the same drug anymore, right? It's now a molecule different, so it can be called something else. And that's basically what they're looking at doing with a lot of these natural psychedelics that aren't chemically derived, like mushrooms, right? Finding a way to alter it so it doesn't cause you to trip, but gives you the same response. Well, I don't know if that's possible, right? For it to be the same thing once you've screwed around with it.
Hey, I get it. And what about these doctors that are at LSU that have been defending therapeutic research for cancer? Now, granted, he was going after a non-hallucinogenic way to introduce it, but I mean, at the same time, I'm sure he has a respect towards the natural properties as well.
Right. And to be honest, I believe with these psychedelics that the trip is actually part of the healing and experience that you need to go through. I mean, those are messages you're receiving for a reason. Are they pleasant sometimes? Absolutely not. But healing is messy. And sometimes that's what's needed. Sometimes that trip isn't a bad trip in your mind. It's actually a medical trip, and you're being shown things that you need to deal with or haven't dealt with.
My buddy vows up and down that it helped his cancer.
Absolutely. We've had numerous patients on Open Your Eye who are cancer patients who have used psychedelics to deal with the fact that they have cancer. We know for fact that, some of those people wouldn't have been with us as long as they were had they not had that healing benefit of psychedelic therapy. And integration work as well. I mean, they didn't just take a bunch of mushrooms and they were like, woohoo, okay, I got cancer, but that's okay. They did therapy with their experiences, and it helped them immensely where nothing else did. So, if anyone's out there watching, Google Thomas Hartle. He's living and now unfortunately deceased proof because cancer did take him from us, but he lived way longer than he would have without having that right mindset, and psychedelics did that for him.
Oh man, and speaking of medication, it is medication time.
That's right, folks. It's time to pay some bills. So stay tuned for a word from some of our sponsors, and then we'll return with more articles making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Network.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Check us out in Tyendinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyendinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
Tune in daily to NOK's diverse podcasting lineup. Ganja News Update, Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Tara Simpson and Ron McNabb. Wake Up with the Waniac, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific with Tombstoner Wayne Cruz. Crow 420, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Eastern with the Forgetful Stoner Ron McNabb. Psychedelic Reporters, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Hobbies Puppets and Tara Simpson. Peace, News and Views, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Sir Steve-O. Open Your Eye, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Kim Cooper and Tara Simpson. Followed by Thursday Night Vibes, 9:15 Eastern with Master and Mama Roach. Cannabis and Crime, Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern with Christine Tara from Machete Cat Productions. The IWK 710 Daily Set airs nightly, 7 days a week, with international rotating joint hosts, 7 p.m. Eastern. Rise and shine, it's marijuana time. Wake and bake with Ron McNabb at 7 a.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Thanks for tuning in to all the podcasting on NOK Network. From our medication session live on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
And we have another set of stories coming at you from the realm of psychedelic medicine. So let's get at it. Well, I sound very musical today. This next article comes out of marijuanamoment.net, and it states federal judge calls out DEA over delay on psychedelic church's petition to use ayahuasca in the religious ceremonies. And this is written by Kyle Yeager. I like him.
Yeah, so ayahuasca is one that you don't hear as much about these days, but this is kind of cool. A lawyer for the Drug Enforcement Administration faced a grilling by federal appeals court over delays in a request for a religious group to use the psychedelic ayahuasca in their practice. A complaint similar to the one that marijuana reform advocates have vented over decades amid repeated efforts to end federal cannabis prohibition. DEA has been largely sitting on a religious exemption petition from the ayahuasca church in Iowa for about 6 years. Oh, wow. 6 years, leading to a lawsuit that was heard by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit on Friday. An attorney representing DEA told judges that the agency has compelling interest in conducting a full and thorough investigation about whether an exception can be made to the Controlled Substances Act based on a referral or any other statute. and that warrants the protracted review process. He added the prior Supreme Court presidents had demonstrated that ayahuasca is an extremely dangerous substance that had led to deaths in religious ceremonies. So what we are asking is allow the agency to continue and make a thorough investigation before it makes a ruling. There was skepticism among judges on the appeals court panel, with one stating that it should be maybe a month-long process to review exemption petitions and issue a ruling, not a years-long process. This is not breaking massive new ground. This is not breaking massive new ground to work out these details, he said during the oral argument, which Law 360 first reported. The DEA attorney told the court that it's very complicated, and this case is very different from other religious exemption cases that deal with the CSA. That's partly because the agency must ensure that ayahuasca that's imported by the church is appropriately sourced. And good point. I mean, we're not talking mushrooms here, where mushrooms are as safe as cannabis. There's never been any death because someone took too many mushrooms, right? But ayahuasca does have some heart implications, and in the wrong hands, I'm sorry, but it could possibly be dangerous, right? So, and again, properly sourced too. You don't know what's coming in.
Well, and especially if you're using it for spiritual, I like the whole getting it from the source that the churches use.
Right, exactly. Yeah, not your local dealer, folks. Make sure that if you're taking these things, that you're getting it from a reliable source who knows what they're doing with dosing and knows where they're getting their product from.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So Ayahuasca Church did provide information about the source of their ceremonial use psychedelic, identifying a Peru-based cultivator. But DEA said it needs extra time to investigate this person and see what their track record is and make sure they're just not diverting it to others. In the original lawsuit over the legal status of Ayahuasca Church and its request to incorporate ayahuasca into its ceremonies, the Justice Department last year downplayed the significance a deal hammered out between the federal government and a separate Arizona-based church that also uses psychedelic brew as part of its practice. And we read about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was last week or the week before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that church first sent its petition to DEA asking for an exemption around ayahuasca use in 2019. The church found an unusual ally in anti-drug Senator Chuck Grassley, a Republican in Iowa, who court filings described an instrumental in expediting the regulatory appeals process back in 2021. A Grassley spokesperson told Marijuana Moment that the senator's help shouldn't necessarily be viewed as an endorsement of the church's point of view on psychedelics, however. Wow.
Yeah. Regarding the agency's initial delay in the process, processing the religious exemption request, the DEA attorney conceded on Friday that it's concerning. However, he said DEA has been acting as fast as it could, consistent with other responsibilities and with the very complex issue about how to make sure that this material is safely used and it's not diverted for other uses. One of the appeals court judges said that from his perspective, this is less about complexity and less about the complexity and sensitivity of the decision, which may very well be true, but I don't know how I can look at this record and think that anyone at DEA was doing anything about this case for the past 15 months. Another judge stated that there's been a lot of extensive delays here, and some are attributable to the government and some to the church. So tell me if there's anything wrong with this framing, which at the beginning of the process, there was a long concerning 3-year delay by the DEA. Then there was long concerning 16-month delay by the church, which would have entitled you to deem the application abandoned, he said. In addition to the church's request to obtain and use the psychedelic in its practices, it has also sought tax exemption status as a religious institution under the Religious Freedoms Restoration Act. The church said it has not incorporated the hallucinogen into its service since 2019, when the IRS responded to an information request stating the activity was considered illegal. It also has never conducted ceremonies at the church's Iowa address, and the sacramental ingredients have never been stored there. Bill Boatwright, an attorney representing ayahuasca in the case, told Marijuana Moments in 2022. Following the appeals court hearing on ayahuasca church's case, the cannabis company MMJ Biopharma Cultivation said in a press release that it had similarly faced years-long delays with DEA processing of its 2018 petition to become a bulk manufacturer of research-grade marijuana. On the other side of the spectrum, a Washington state church said in May that DEA approved its application for an exemption under federal drug laws to use ayahuasca for religious ceremonies. And for the first time, the agency granted the unique exemption without legal challenges.
It's a church thing, and I've thought about going to the Baton Rouge Mushroom Church here and go and check that out. And it's tough. It's a tough one because
I believe that they should have the right to use it. Absolutely, as long as they're doing their due diligence to make sure that the people they're preparing ceremony for are healthy to take ayahuasca. Then I don't see an issue, right? As long as they have the proper healthy protocols in place in case there's an emergency or anything can happen. I get that it's for religious ceremony. Absolutely. They have the right, just like mushrooms are my sacrament, right? That's I take them as often as I can. So if that's all being played a part of and they're making sure that everyone's safe, what's the issue? It's their
Right, and if they get from the real source, like that, these tribes have been using for generations and
getting it in Peru, so it's gotta be good.
Yeah. So we got one more article for tonight, and that comes out of Australia, and that's the Australian.com. Tryptamine raises $6 million to advance world's first 4-psilocin drug. So tryptamine is a company, and it has firm commitments to raise $6 million in a placement to advance clinical development of its novel 4-infused psilocin formulation, TRP 8803. Special report November 21st. Wow, this is in
I don't think that's 4 as in Roman numerals. I think that's IV infused is what they're getting.
IV infused. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. This is neat. So you want to take the key points away, and
I'll key point it. I'm a key pointer. So tryptamine receives firm commitments to raise $6 million in a placement strongly supported by new and existing stakeholders. Placement cornerstone by Merchant Biotech Fund and biotech investor Dr. Daniel Tillett, who will join the board, funds to accelerate clinical trial strategy for lead program for infused or IV infused psilocin formulation TRP 8803. Special report clinical stage biotech tryptamine therapeutics secured commitments from new and existing professional, sophisticated, and institutional investors to raise $6 million to accelerate development of its novel infused, infused psilocin formulation TRP 8803. I heard Kim in the background screaming at the screen. Tryptamine therapeutics and placement was being cornerstone. This is where that's your start. My bad.
Yeah. So, Tryptamine Therapeutics said the placement was being cornerstoned by the high conviction merchant biotech fund and seasoned biotech investor, Dr. Daniel Tillett. The placement is also being supported by existing major shareholders, Dr. Bill Garner, Herwig Jensen, and Ludwig Kreil, along with CEO Jason Carroll and company director Chris Natanimopoulos. I hope I said that right. TYP said the placement of 300 million new shares at 2C came at no discount to the 15-day and 30-day volume weighted average price. Placement funds will accelerate TYP's development of its lead program, TRP 8803, which is a novel and scalable IV-infused psilocin solution with potential advantages over oral dosing. Well, yeah, because it's going to get into your system like lightning, right? It doesn't have to go through the digestive process. You can just shoot this shit into your veins and be like, woohoo! In seconds, right? Versus like a half hour or so for to kick in. That's interesting. With the potential to treat multiple conditions and delivered through intravenous methods, TRP 8803 has been floated as a faster acting, more precise alternative to oral psilocybin, which is more controllable in its dosing and has less side effects. Funds to accelerate trial program. Among the benefits suggested for TRP 8803 was a significant reduction in time to the psychedelic state, precise control of the depth and duration of the experience, and a reduction in intervention duration to a commercially feasible time frame. Oh, I see what they're doing here. Like, we can control your whole trip, start to finish, and then also make it last only enough time that we can make our money, kind of thing, right? Like, so it's not going to be like you need hours and hours or days to do these, right?
Yeah. Fuck. Can you go another paragraph?
Yeah. Yeah. In October, TYP announced the Safety and Review Council for its phase 1B had deemed that TRP 8803 was generally safe and well tolerated in healthy volunteers at doses that achieved plasma levels of psilocin associated with beneficial effects in various patient populations treated with oral psilocybin. The safety finding for TRP 8803 follows completion of the company's phase 1B study in healthy volunteers at CMAX Clinical Research in Adelaide in August. The open label study, which commenced in June of 2024, was conducted with therapist support, and TYP said it was believed to be the only time that an IV-infused psilocin solution has been used anywhere in the world. And I would agree with that. I've never heard of it.
No, no, no. And, so IV shoots a lot of like good like stuff sometimes. It's a great way to transmute it quickly to the body, like you said.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
So TYP said new funds would support additional larger clinical trials using TRP 8803 in specific indications. The trials are expected to provide pivotal clinical data before product registration in the Australian market. Tillett to join to board as part of the placement. Dr. Daniel Tillett will be appointed as a non-executive director of TYP. Tillett is the CEO of Race Oncology, SXRAC, and is founder of the Australian biotech Neuroclix, which is focused on development of software tools that improve DNA sequencing and genomics. Yes. So Tillett holds a PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology from UNSG and brings nearly 30 years of biotechnology experience to TYP. He will assist in the ongoing development of the TYP's clinical trial strategy and commercialization opportunities. Non-executive director Clark Barlow will step down from their board roles. I am honored to join the TYP team as they advance TRP 8803 in the clinical for a range of difficult to treat psychiatric illness. Tillett said psilocin has a long history of utility in serious psychiatric disease, but it has lacked a valuable delivery method that is safe and controllable for patients and clinicians. The ability to precisely dose psilocin and safely induce the required neuroplasticity state to affect long-term benefit is a potential game changer for patients who have few or no other treatment options, positioned with financial flexibility. Ooh.
Yeah. Carol said the strategic placement provided TYP with added balance sheet strength to accelerate the clinical pathway for TRP 8803. The funds raised come at an important juncture with the key safety milestone reached in our phase 1B study and progress in TRP's 8802 Pathfinders trial. He said, with these funds, TRIP is now positioned with financial flexibility to execute the next phase of our clinical trial program. We remain committed to clinically backed solutions for psychedelic treatments in accordance with the highest quality and safety standards. Non-executive chairman Mark Davies and said the heavily bid placement highlighted TYP's significant near-term opportunity as a leading psychedelic drug developer. On behalf of the board and management, I would like to welcome new investors and thank existing participants for their ongoing support, he said. I welcome Daniel to the board, who has demonstrated considerable support through his placement participation, and we look forward to leveraging his expertise. I extend thanks to Clark, who has provided dedicated service to the company. We wish him well in the future. So that's kind of the lowdown on that. That's kind of cool that there's an injectable psilocybin. Again, I don't know how I feel about this because that means that they've taken it and they've altered it somehow to make it injectable, because they didn't just take the mushrooms and grind them up and shoot them into your veins, right?
No, but there is a way to extract the oil and make it into things.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'd like to see more information about that particular drug if it ever does get final approval. I'd like to know a lot more about how it came to fruition and development, because that's kind of neat. Not gonna lie, who doesn't want to just be like, okay, I got a half hour and let's trip. Let's get this done. Right? Rather than, oh shit, they're not gonna kick in for a half hour. What do I do now? Right?
Right. No. So man, that's awesome. That's gonna be like so awesome to see how that goes out.
Absolutely. But again, I'm one of those, I don't weigh my trip. If I'm going to do a rec dose, I generally just stick my hand in the bag, pick out a bunch and eat them. And I take my chances.
So how would microdosing for treatments with an IV work? That'd be really interesting to see how they turn that into all different kinds of therapies.
Right, because people aren't just taking these high doses to have an experience to trip. There are people like myself and Kim and lots of other people who are microdosing, which means our dose is just a tiny little dose. 0.2 of a gram of whole mushrooms is what we're consistently taking. So that's a very, very low dose. It does not give you any psychedelic effects whatsoever, but it does help control my migraines and keep them at bay. It does help my mood, especially this time of year. Anyone who has those it's wintertime blues, I want to hibernate, I want to sleep all day, I don't want to function. Microdosing, I'm telling you, it's a game changer. It makes me so much better. Not that I don't still have days where it's but they're a lot fewer and far between, and they're a lot less severe. So that's microdosing, right? I'm not getting high. I'm not tripping balls and seeing shit that isn't there. I'm taking them generally in the evening because then I'm home for the night and I find them kind of relaxing for the most part. So it's kind of the perfect time to do them. And then if you do find they make you a little sleepy now and then, because some strains can, it's a win-win. You don't have to take anything for sleep either, right? So for me, it's microdosing is great. So if you could literally have that, hey, I can just give myself a daily shot of a microdose and get the same effect. Maybe for those people who the actual whole mushrooms bothers their stomach, because there are some people that just can't do them because they just irritate their stomach too much, or maybe they don't like the taste of them. It's kind of another administration route to microdosing, if that could be a thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's cool. I can't wait to see more information come out about that one, just to see. I just want to know more.
Right. As the times go, they'll probably, more articles about what the fuck they're doing and shit. So, Thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube page, as well as our social media sites.
That's right, folks. We hope you've enjoyed your update today of mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint hosts, Tara Simpson and Bufo Various, for choosing the stories. Thank you, Kim Cooper in the back, smoking dab and getting high, being entertained. And to you. Oh, wait. No, you're over here. Yeah, there you are. To you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dad Ringer again from Kirkland Lake, on our way out.
Bye.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of tonight.